Yeah, we were only going to be here for 6. My wife is from Mexico, and I met her there, and now I'm here talking to you people about AI, which is crazy. I wasn't expecting this at all. But yeah, we were just going to do.
Sure. Just trying to say. Keep talking.
We were just going to do 6 months, and then it turned into a year.
Seems like.
Oh.
I think I finished it. Not sure.
Yep. All right. Well.
We're about to get started.
Yeah.
Here.
Should
Set
I?
up the live stream and then.
Okay. Cool. Well, any other countries here? We got Finland, Mexico, U.S. You're not from the U.S.
UK.
Where in the UK?
Nottingham.
Nottingham. I don't know if I've been to Nottingham. Where is this? In the north or the south?
Well, yeah, about in the middle.
In the middle? Okay.
North of London.
I went to the UK recently for my stag do, for like a bachelor party. Went to London, it was very nice, and I went to Liverpool, saw a game there, so that was very cool. It's very rainy. I chose to go in the middle of January, and that was a terrible time, but it was very fun. I'm running out of material here, brother. What's going on? Okay, so Nottingham, that's nice, that's nice. There's actually an English restaurant here that I went to, and I've been curious to see what an English person thinks about it. Have you been to this English restaurant? It opened up, it's very nice. It's very, I think it's called Lamb.
Oh yeah, I've heard about it.
Yeah, what do you think? You like it?
I've not been.
You've not been?
It's a bit pricey, no?
Yeah, it is. It's like very expensive versions of your cheap food. So it's kind of like Mexican food in New York, you know? It's, okay, actually, I'm curious. Have any of the Mexicans here, have you been to New York?
Yep.
What do you think of the Mexican food? Did you try it?
No, I don't think so.
It's horrible.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It's horrible. I had to switch over to like food from the Caribbean. I started eating like Dominican food because I was like, this Mexican food is horrible. Every time I went to a restaurant, it was like way overpriced and fancy takes on. Anyway, yeah, we're starting now?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Thank you. Hola, buenas noches. Les damos la más cordial bienvenida a la Casa Rafael Galván. Somos un espacio de la Universidad Autónoma Metropolitana. No sé si la conocen. Somos una universidad que tiene más de 50 años y nuestra línea de trabajo es arte, tecnología e industrias creativas. Cuando Ben se acercó con nosotros para acercarnos a esta actividad, pues estamos súper contentos. Y nada, pues es la segunda sesión que tenemos. Vamos a tener una más el 9 de diciembre. Y pues bienvenidos, bienvenidas. Ben.
Thank you. Everybody give an applause for these folks. Rafael Galván. It's a nice, quiet spot off the road. It's hard to find those here in Mexico City, so we definitely have a lot of appreciation for that. I'm standing way too close to this camera. All they can see is like the middle of it. That's gonna be fun on the live stream. Anyway, this is the camera for the live stream, so don't do anything too crazy because we're live on the internet. But yeah, this is AI CDMX. We have these talks here every month. Normally the third Tuesday. Next month, because that's really close to Christmas, we're going to do the 9th instead. And that's going to be an exciting talk about AI agents and when to use them, why to use them, all that kind of stuff. So I'm really excited about that. But tonight we have Danny. We're going to be talking about storytelling, which I'm very excited about. I think we've all seen the AI slop recently, especially the last few months, and you know, I think we're in this like change period, right, where we really feel, or at least a lot of us that work in AI, work with AI, we really feel like it can do so much more, it can be so much better, and it's just not, and I think that's extremely disappointing for us. So yeah, running up to this, talking with Danny, he obviously shares those feelings as being a longtime storyteller and producer, and you've been in podcasting, what, more than 10 years? And before that you were in entertainment? And
Yeah, worked in music.
Yeah, music, exactly. So, yeah, I'm very excited about this tonight. So, everybody please give a warm welcome to Danny, and yeah, let's get the show on the road.
We're back. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. I am learning Spanish. It's okay, but it's certainly not sufficient for this. I would be terrified to speak Spanish in this circumstance. But yeah, I just want to thank everybody for coming out. I think it's amazing that you have this community here and that people are getting together just to kind of like talk about these sorts of things. And thanks to Ben for just bringing me here to just kind of like share some ideas. So a little bit about me. Number one, I leave for my honeymoon on Thursday, which is very exciting. I'm going to Taiwan and Vietnam, so I'll be at the back afterwards. If you have any sort of recommendations, dumpling or noodle related, please come to me, please let me know. I've been working in entertainment. I was actually thinking about this today. I've been working in entertainment for like 20 years, which is nuts. I started off in the music industry as a manager and then a tour manager, and then I moved on to podcasting. And that's what I've been doing, now for like 10 years. A lot of my career has been spent at the intersection of new media and traditional media, and it's something that I'm, I would say, very passionate about and very interested in. I'm very passionate about young artists and helping them get their work out into the world and, you know, having them monetize it and create careers out of it, because I think that it's genuinely a very important thing for our society. I know that's kind of cheesy, but I mean, hey, this is the talk today. That's what we're here for. So today what I really want to get into is, AI and entertainment, why we need to democratize art. And one of the things that I want to start off with is I see people talk about this on the internet, and I don't actually think there's a lot of experts on the subject at the moment, because I think we genuinely don't know where any of this is going to go. So I would say anything I say tonight, like, take it with a grain of salt. These are my thoughts at the moment, and maybe everything will be totally different tomorrow. I have absolutely no idea. I'm also like newer to the tech industry. I've been working at Headspace for a while, but I was predominantly on the entertainment side. So So for me, when we're democratizing art, it requires for the creation to get easier, which I'll get into, which seems very obvious, but it depends. The cost has to drop for creation. There has to be a relevant distribution channel that comes out at the right time, and then you need to be able to monetize it so that you can motivate people to get involved. And I've experienced this a couple times in my career, and so I want to go back a bit to 2001 and the blog era for music. And I don't know, they're obviously not super relevant anymore, but they were a huge deal around 2005, and they like fundamentally changed how you distribute music. So of course, like traditionally, it's okay, like if you wanted to be a musician, what would you do? You would start playing in your garage, you'd try and make a demo, you'd try and save up a bunch of money, and then you would go to a local studio, pay a ton of money, try and get your demo made, and then you'd have to like generally physically go to where people that work in the record industry are. They were predominantly in New York and LA, more likely in LA, and there's all those stories where it's like, yeah, we were playing on, I don't know, Hollywood Boulevard, and like some A&R agent just saw us and they got lucky. And I mean, that was a fine system, but it left a lot of people out, Like if you couldn't afford to go to LA, or if you couldn't afford to record your music and you didn't get lucky enough to just see some particular person, then you were kind of shit out of luck. And so obviously like there was some technology that started to make things better. So you started to get programs like Pro Tools where you could record music in your house, and 4-track recorders and stuff like this. But there weren't a ton of avenues for distribution for this. So like you would make your music in your bedroom, but still you were like at the whims of whatever, music executive would see it. But 2001, things changed. A program came out called Ableton, and Ableton was really amazing because it was like very easy to use. And the tools before that were pretty difficult. Like there was a kind of a higher barrier to entry. But with Ableton, it was generally about electronic music. You could DJ with it. A lot of people still use it. And people could just kind of pick it up and figure it out, and they could start to make music. And so you have this new technology where people are able to start really making things inside their houses. And there were other DAWs, digital audio workstations as well. But that was like pretty fundamental. And then around 2005, you have, I don't know if anyone's ever heard of like Pitchfork. Like Pitchfork came out and it was this huge music blog, like millions of people read it. You had other ones like Gorilla versus Bear. There were a ton of these. And these became popular all over the world. And they had, people reading them from, literally everywhere. And suddenly, kids would use Ableton and they would record their music and they'd fire it off to these blog people, these gatekeepers there. And they would have a career like that. And it was pretty wild. Like, so at this time I was in college and I had a friend named Alan Palomo. And Alan Palomo was making some music. He had some buzz on some of these sort of things and we were living together and he started writing this project and he called it Neon Indian. And at this point, like, they're not as popular anymore, but at the time they were really, really popular. And we were just like literally in our apartment trying to make this thing happen. And I was like, okay, well, I'll be the manager. Which, I mean, what did that even mean at the time? But I was trying to organize things, and like kind of get things going. And he released this record, which he made at our apartment. I remember him coming into my bedroom and like taking the guitar out and like just kind of tinkering around. I mean, this was a really homegrown operation. And he put it on Pitchfork and it got Best New Music, which at the time was the best rating that you could possibly get on the most popular music blog. And when I say that our lives changed overnight, they changed overnight. I mean, it was nuts. It was like, you had labels flying in. We were in college, labels flying in and they were asking about like deals and like amounts of money that we had just never imagined. We got this weird deal with Mountain Dew and they put his face up on these posters around Austin. It was pretty wild. And then very quickly, he started to do shows. We initially started to do DJ sets, like touring around the US. And it was just nuts, because like it was like automatically a business. And we were starting to meet people from all over the world. Like we would meet people from Brazil and from Tokyo, and they had all gone through the exact same route. They had made this stuff in their bedrooms, and suddenly they had this career. And it was just amazing. And I think that even now, it's funny, like I'll hear certain songs and like from that era, or like, like more popular songs, even from like Taylor Swift or something, and you can see how they're influenced by that era. And at that time, a lot of people were talking about, okay, like this is the death of the studio, like you're just gonna make stuff in your bedroom. And that's just not true at all. There's still studios, there's still big artists, you know what I mean? Like there's people that make stuff in their bedrooms, and there's people that make stuff other places. And I guess what I took from that whole experience was that, like, there were so many people I met that had genuinely, like, really interesting music and really interesting things to say, and they just never would have had the opportunity had, this technology come around and this distribution come. So that was kind of my first experience with this, and it was really amazing. So next, move into the podcast era. So while I was touring around, I was touring for like 10 years, and I was never at home. I was on the road for like 10 months out of the year. And I felt like I was getting dumber, because I was just like either driving a van or on a bus or on a plane. Like I was never reading anymore. And I was like, man, I gotta like get some sort of new information in my head. So I started listening to a lot of different podcasts. And around this time, this is like 2012, this was an amazing time for podcasting. Because again, much in the same way that it had happened with music, a lot of these music programs had suddenly become very user-friendly for sound design. And you could get a cheap condenser mic, and you could, soundproof your bedroom or something, and then you could suddenly sound design really interesting stories. Before that, if you wanted to do this, like, you'd have to go work for NPR, the BBC. NPR in the US is like it's called National Public Radio. And again, like they have stations all around the US, but you would need to go to a particular career track, and there's not a lot of people that do this sort of thing. So this was a really interesting time. There were shows like Radiolab, and then I put Serial and S-Town came out, and these were like watershed moments. These shows blew up. They were huge. Like millions of people started listening to them. And a lot of people started to go, wow, like this is actually an industry. And I think that like kind of going into the AI stuff, it felt like it kind of needed to happen as well, along with the music, because I don't know if you've listened to the radio in like the last 10 years, but it's crazy. It's hard to listen to. It's just like there's a lot of like weird sounds, and like they barely play music, and there's a lot of ads, and this was really amazing because this was long form, high quality storytelling that people just didn't have access to. And then obviously, so you had this technology and people were starting to make these in their rooms. And initially like NPR was making a lot of these, but then people like me were like, wait a minute, I can make these as well, you know? So they got super popular, and I decided I've had enough of touring. I'd like to get into podcasting, and I felt like I learned enough in touring. Like I learned a lot about production, like things like how you talk to an artist, how you get the best out of them. It was actually kind of cool. Sometimes when we were off tour, I would go to where they were recording. So if they were recording in, I don't know, like Sydney or New York or whatever, and I would just kind of sit next to the producer while he was working with him. And this was amazing, because I could just sit there and like see how he thinks about like organizing a large project, and like how he would tell them that the take that they had was really bad, and do it in a way where they wouldn't just like totally freak out. And I learned the same thing with like live shows and these sorts of things. It's funny when you're like 25 and you're trying to figure out how to get like a 35-year-old musician out of his bunk to go do an interview that he needs to do, but like he's hungover, and I don't know, it's a very interesting dynamic. So I go into podcasting and I start making my own little show where I was like interviewing people on the road. And it got some traction. Now, by the way, I didn't get famous. Like, I wasn't getting mugged at the grocery store or something, but it got enough attention to where I started to get gigs. And I moved out to LA, and this was a really exciting time because the film and TV industry said, okay, podcasting is like this new thing, and all these executives from TV moved over to it. So suddenly a ton of money in like 2016 went over to podcasting. And the rates for working on episodes and stuff just like skyrocketed. It peaked in about 2019, 2020. Like the tech industry got involved, and Spotify, was like, oh, we'll pay like $25 million for a podcast. And it was like, I mean, this isn't oil and gas, this is like people talking to a mic. There's absolutely no ROI on this. But again, it was really amazing because it opened up a lot of doors for me, and it gave me access to like, I don't know, like, I guess you could say like a higher level of entertainment, like you're working with companies like Amazon and Wondery and these sorts of people, but you're still working in this creator economy, and I just loved that blend of things. And a lot of these shows ended up getting upstream to film and TV. So like a lot of TV shows that you'll see, like Dr. Death, like that was a podcast before, and like a variety of different things like that. Which brings me to AI. Now, I started to think about this, I told some of you this before, but everybody in podcasting, we had this boom, and then a lot of the money has left it. I mean, there's still really popular podcasters out there, right? Like, obviously people are making money, but it's nothing like it was in 2020. And everything's really been moving over to YouTube. In fact, a conversation that I have frequently with people is like, what even is a podcast? Is a podcast, like, is it a YouTube show? Is it not? Is it audio only? And I started to notice that at every single conference that I was going to, people were like, well, how do I transfer my audio-only podcast over to YouTube? And for me, the obvious answer started to be AI. But it's kind of interesting with that community, I mean, like entertainment in general, they're very touchy about AI. Like they kind of don't want to hear it. And I'm going to get into this in a second because I think there's kind of a PR problem with it, like Ben touched on it. But yeah, I mean, I feel that with YouTube, we actually have the distribution part. So with the other ones that I talked about, it seemed like the technology came first and then distribution. And right now, I feel like we have the distribution with YouTube. Like the search is great, you've got TikTok as well. Like these are platforms where you can put videos on that are really good. But I actually don't think that the technology is there for long form video creation yet. And I think that's really important for people to start to take it seriously. Because like Ben was saying, right now, especially with, when Sora came out and everything, the perception of it is that this is not artistic, or that this will remove artists, and that there's not any value in this. And I actually disagree with this significantly. Like, I think that this could be an incredible tool for bringing stories from people all over, particularly places like this, that would have never been able to be made before. Okay, yeah, so. One of the reasons that I think this is really important and why I'm personally motivated to work on it is because, number one, Hollywood's economic system is broken. So, I mean, we all probably know this, but let's review it. In the 90s, the peak, let's say one of the peaks of Hollywood, depends who you talk to, but there were all sorts of movies getting made, and people could take financial risks on movies because we have the DVD business. And like on the back end, like if you lost a bunch of money at the theater, like the Shawshank Redemption, I don't know if you know about this here, this is a huge movie in the United States. It's based off a Stephen King novel. This was an absolute flop at theaters, but the DVD business for it made millions, and it recouped the cost of the movie. So financiers and producers and executives, they would take chances on these sorts of middle range movies, and you would get a lot more, like, in my opinion, interesting stories. And then we move into like the streaming era, right, in the 2010s. And, you know, I mean, this was interesting because it was just like growth over everything. Like, who cares, like, how much these movies cost? And actually, interestingly enough, there were a lot of jobs in Hollywood at that time. Because, I mean, everyone, it was like, I don't know, like, Coca-Cola, like everyone had a streaming service. And so everybody had to make a bunch of content. So like if you worked in lighting or whatever, like there was a lot of work for you at the time. But again, the money men came back and they were like, okay, this is cool. Like how are we making money doing this? Well, you're losing a ton of money. And so that started to contract, and then COVID happened, and then the strike happened. And the strike happened in part because of AI, because animators and writers and directors and actors, rightfully so, were like, hey, you're training this stuff on our work, like what's going on here? They didn't even really understand it, and they were just like, you know, because what people were saying was like, okay, you're gonna have a room of 10 writers and you're gonna reduce that down to 2, right? So that's bad PR, again, and I'll get into that more. But yeah, so the economic system is broken. I mean, I would say, I think it's from 2019 to now, you have 40% less jobs in Hollywood. And that's actually not because of AI. That's because of streaming, and like the economic model simply doesn't work anymore. You used to have these big tentpole movies like The Avengers or something, and that would cover the cost of the other movies that didn't do so well. And right now, those big movies can't cover the cost of these smaller movies. And as you know, we all love movies and we all love entertainment, but like, trust me when I say this, it is not a charity. These people are there to make money. And you know, a lot of these places are owned by large financial institutions at the moment. So for me, the math is not adding up, and I just don't really understand how it can keep going. I mean, if you look at a movie like One Battle After Another, this was a really big movie in the US. It had Leonardo DiCaprio. I mean, and I loved the movie. And you know, and it had a big director, Paul Thomas Anderson. And it really was like an indie movie. I mean, they spent $150 million on that before marketing. I think when it got to marketing, it was up at $250 million or something. And of course, like, it's lost a ton of money. And for me, actually, the threat there is not like, I'm not afraid for Leonardo DiCaprio losing money. You know, like he's fine. What bothers me is that that's an interesting movie with an interesting story with an important message. And I think that if they keep seeing these movies take these huge losses, then they're not going to keep financing them, you know? And that sucks because we all like good movies. And yeah, so this one's pretty obvious, like we need new artists, stories, and less barriers to entry. I want to go back to when I was talking about music, when I was like, okay, if you wanted to, get your band discovered, you had to go to Hollywood and like get discovered. I mean, when you really think about it, what goes in, like if you're a creative person and you want to get a movie made, what goes into that is genuinely insane. And it produces an environment where people can easily take advantage of other people. It's racist, it's weird. It's like, okay, let's say that you're in the middle of the US and you're like, okay, I have a story to tell. I really want to go like write a script. You have to go to LA, you have to leave your family, which like, I mean, a lot of people can't do that, right? Like, let's say you're caring for somebody. So you have to go there, you know, you work a whatever job. If you have enough energy at night, you write your script. If you're lucky enough to finish it, then you send it, you know, maybe you get access to like an agency, right? So you send it to WME. This is a big agency. These are people that negotiate film contracts. So the first people that are gonna read that script generally are like their interns. These are people that are in the mailroom. So there's just like some kid, right? That's like probably straight out of Yale. His parents can afford to pay for him to be in LA and make nothing and get like verbally abused by these people, and then they read your script. And by the way, right now they just summarize them with ChatGPT, and they determine whether your story is worth being heard or not. So they either throw it in the trash or they give it to their boss. And this boss is predominantly a white executive that lives in West Hollywood that never really leaves West Hollywood, and they determine whether your story should be told or not. Now, I'm not an expert in these things, but I would say, like, if you're a kid from Tepito, for example, and you have a really good script on your hands, the odds of an executive there understanding it and being like, yeah, there's a market for this, are zero. And that's why there are maybe 4 Mexican directors that anybody in the US has ever heard of. Like, maybe they can name Guillermo del Toro, maybe, at best. So, yeah, I think that if we can create technology to make longer form stuff, then it gives people a genuine opportunity to make movies without having to, like, risk their life. Like, I just don't think that, like, you know, this idea of you having to go there and, like, be getting in financial ruin because of this, I just don't think it, like, makes a lot of sense. Like, it's really weird to me. And we've moved out of this phase with other art forms. Again, like, yeah, we're talking about music, we're talking about just, like, general fine art, these sorts of things. Like, you don't have to take these sorts of risks. And so I just don't think that you should have to do that in film. Anyway, and also, like, how cool would it be to just imagine, like, I don't know, if you had some kid from Tokyo making his version of Star Wars or something like that. That's interesting. That's something that I want to see, and they can just do it for a lot cheaper. So, yeah, I want to talk about the PR problem. So basically, right now, the narrative, and I can tell you this for 100% certainty, the narrative within rooms in studios, networks, is how do we reduce headcount? Like, if you think this is not happening, I can guarantee you it is 100% happening. Like I said, it's like, again, we have a writer's room of 10, how do we get it down to 2? And eventually, a lot of the ideas here is like, you know, it's sort of like, how can I train AI on enough Quentin Tarantino scripts so that I can basically go boop and then create a Quentin Tarantino script, right? And like, this freaks creators out. The economy of Los Angeles is 20% the film industry, because it's not just like people that like act and stuff like this. Again, it's people that drive the trucks, it's people that do the catering. This is like a whole, the city depends on it, you know? And if I get mixed on this because I sometimes feel like if it's like, oh, well, we'll just retrain everybody. It's like, I mean, tell that to Detroit, right? Like, have you been there? Because it's struggling. And it's been struggling for a really long time. Or like Youngstown, where my family was originally from in the US. So there is like this PR problem. But what I'm proposing is that we flip the narrative. And it's like, okay, executives, if you are saying that like what you're going to do is replace all of us creatives, like that's your objective, I say that we go, okay, well then it's a level playing field now. And now you have to compete with everybody. And I think you're gonna lose. Because if the talent of an executive in these, like sure, there's a lot of creative executives that are genuinely talented people that like shepherd a lot of really good projects from start to finish. But for the most part, it's people that have figured out how to navigate a corporate structure in generally like an aggressive manner, right? And like that to me is very different from somebody who's a creative. And just because like you're a really good storyteller, a really good filmmaker, you probably won't succeed in that environment. However, if these executives say, okay, we're going to be able to get rid of everybody, and then I'm going to be able to make the movie that I want to make, I would say, all right, imagine you have a young Guillermo del Toro. Who do you think is going to win that? I put my money on the young Guillermo del Toro. And I think that when you have these sorts of tools, again, we'll just level the playing field. And so there's a few different ways to look at it. And you know, I think that a lot of jobs will be lost, which sucks. But also, what I'm hopeful about, and what I think is actually like a responsibility that people that work in this industry should be thinking of, is like, how do we do this so we can monetize it? Because again, like, there were 4 parts when I talked about these sort of transitions, these democratizations, and monetization is a key part. We have to give people an incentive to to make this stuff. Because yeah, like it's cool, you know, like you can sit around your bedroom and make stuff, but like everybody has a dream, you know, and like everybody wants to, it's not just notoriety, but being able to pay your bills and be creative is really cool. And again, like not everybody's gonna be able to do this. You know, Mozart was buried in a mass grave. I'm fully cognizant of the fact that like, you know, most artists don't make it out well financially in the end. But I just think if like the trade-off is you have this very, very, very small segment of society that gets to tell stories and gets them funded, and like, you know, you can either maintain that system, or again, you can open it up to like somebody from Puebla could make like a really cool movie. I think that that's really fun and super interesting. So, yeah, so I'll talk about what we're making. I have some demos here, which this is terrifying because I haven't actually shown a bunch of them to like people, and I don't know, you know how like PowerPoint is, but we'll try. And I'll kind of show you what we're doing. So basically, when I was at some of these podcast conferences and people were talking about, yeah, like, you know, we want to turn our podcast into video, I called up my Tio, well, Tio now. Basically, my wife's uncle moved to the US and became a hotshot in the film industry. He works in animation. He developed a lot of motion capture technology. You know, he worked on like the Polar Express, Mission Impossible, K-pop Demon Hunters, Avatar. One of his specialties, he's a full stack engineer, but one of his specialties is creating pipelines for animation studios, because the way that you organize how you go through the process of making this stuff is obviously very difficult, and you need to go through particular processes given the current technology that they have. So, I don't know, I called him up and I was like, hey, like, I'm seeing this thing, you know, there's a lot of people that, like a lot of podcasts lend themselves to talking, right? I don't know if it's like an interview series or something, but sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's a narrative series. Sometimes it's, I don't know, like a history show, and you're like, a lot of people don't even want their face on there. Like one of the appeals of podcasting was like, I can get an audience and, you know, I can just like hide behind this because maybe they're afraid that their employer will find out or something, you know? But some of these have millions of people listening to them still, or hundreds of thousands. And so I was like, can you make something like this? And so he did. And I'm actually really proud of it. Like, we have this MVP. It's command line software at the moment. We're looking for another full stack engineer. So if there's anybody here that wants to help us out, that would be amazing. And we need to work on the front end. But the way that it works is, yeah, you take your podcast, you upload it, it transcribes it, and it storyboards everything. And then, I was explaining this earlier, but then after that, it turns, in the storyboarding process, it takes a script, and it basically turns it into different scenes. And then it detects what things in your script come up more than once. So if it's like a character, or if it's like a location, and then you get the option to choose the location. So if it has a location, you'll get 4 different options to choose how it looks. And then that will be consistent. And then the same thing with the character. And then if you don't like it, you can type in a prompt and you can select something different. And then it just goes through these phases like we're talking about, like these animation pipelines. And then when you have all these videos strung together, you can go in and make changes as well. So like if a character is there and it's the day, you can turn it to night, and then it puts everything together, and yeah, and then it makes stuff. So I don't know, let me see. I think I don't know if the audio is gonna work on this, but I'll kind of talk you through this a little bit. And again, y'all are engineers, so maybe you're like, this is whatever, this sucks, but I mean, whatever, we're trying to do it. So you have this, so you're typing in, it says Spartacus, right? We're gonna make a thing about Spartacus. So you upload your podcast, transcribes it here. And then I want to pause it. Okay, yeah, so this is what I was talking about. So this is detected that there's going to be a barracks here, okay, in this story. And this is going to be a recurring location in the story. So you've got 4 different options here that you can choose from and choose how they look. And if you don't like it, then you can type it in and you can change it. And then, yeah, so this is, again, individual characters. And right here, oh, let me pause it. Hold on a second. Okay, yeah, so all these down here are just the different scenes that are going to be strung together. So like if you're, I don't know, your bedroom director, you just go to each scene, these are animated, and you can check. And you're like, okay, so I like the way the soldiers look here, but I'd like some changes. So you go up here and you change it. And then eventually, it's all strung together, and it tracks the story. So, I mean, you can't hear the audio right now. It doesn't sound that great anyway. But yeah, so like it just fully comes together, and we can make these pretty much as long as we want. We could do about 2 hours right now for like $1,000. 500 on our end, and then we would charge more. This thing right here we made, so this went viral. Basically, this guy made it on Twitter, and he talked about how he made an anime, and it took him about like 5 tools in a week, and we did it in 2 hours just using ours. And yeah, so just showing that it like tracks the story. And it's interesting right here, you can see there's like certain delays happening, and we actually found out while we were making this. So initially, we would just have the script in there, and it would track the story. But we found that it worked a lot better and a lot more fluid if it works on scenes before anything else. So instead of just tracking the story, like you need to establish like the plane is flying, like, and this scene is gonna be 3 seconds, you know, and the next scene is gonna be 3 seconds, next scene is gonna be 3 seconds, and this, that, and the other. So yeah, that's what we're working on. Anyway, yeah, I kind of talked about a lot of this, but yeah, to me, ultimately, there are some trade-offs. And one thing that we were talking about was like, you know, I think in an ideal world, I mean, okay, yeah, like you've got maybe one person that can do this, but if I know one thing about people that like work in entertainment, oftentimes like they don't want to get their hands dirty, right? Like they're like, you do it. Like I don't want to like get in here and like actually like work on this. So I still think that there will maybe be like a variety of smaller, let's say, visual effects studios or smaller studios. Like, you know, there's always going to be people that figure out how to make money off this stuff and who are genuinely making things that people like. I think that's the case. Maybe that's not. I don't know. And so I imagine that you'll get people that are really good at each phase of this. Because we were just talking about this before. I'm sorry, what's your name again? Luke. Luke's an animator. And so we were talking about how it's like, when I talk to people in podcasting, you know, like they're really good at audio, but they have no idea what things should look like. You know, they're like, I don't know, like maybe, like you tell me what visual aesthetic would work or like what would be cool or interesting. I mean, this is why we have experts in all these different jobs. So again, like I think there will be savants that can go in, and whether it's this tool or whether it's somebody else's, that can go in and like make everything on their own. Like again, like a Tarantino type character. But I think there will also just be people who are like, maybe you have this and you have like a really good visual creative director, you know, who used to work at Pixar, and now they get a lot more autonomy, and you still have big contracts and they get paid a living wage, and they can work on one segment of this. And a lot of it's like, you know, if you're doing this for brands, for example, like a whole visual identity, like that's something, like you don't just come up with that, right? Like this requires a lot of thought, and people pay for that sort of thing. So I just think it'll be more like maybe smaller. I envision it's like, you know, you have like small design studios. And people can do a lot of different things. Or the way we had it in podcasting, where, you know, you like a team of 4 people could make really high quality stuff. So yeah, that's my thought. I don't know if I have any other, yeah, that's my last slide. Well, thank you for listening to me rant today, and I appreciate your time. How long was that? 20?
We're gonna take some questions here, but real quick before that, we're gonna we want to be out of here at this location by 8, so we still have plenty of time. But when we're done here, we're gonna go over to a local bar, and I always mispronounce the name. Is it Yakimanku? Okay, close it up. It's very close by. So we'll post it in the WhatsApp group if you're in that. We've got QR codes, so find one of these QR codes if you want to join the WhatsApp community where we do announcements and talk about AI and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think we're gonna have some questions here. I've got one. and that recently you posed to me, and I kind of want to pose it back to you.
Pose it, pose it.
Which is essentially, and please make sure to repeat the questions if you can, so it'll get caught on the live stream and all that. But essentially, the question was, what's going to happen, or what should I like to focus on the positive, right? What should people think about, or say they're working in lighting, or they're working in they're a boom mic operator or whatever. Like, what should they be focused on if they want to continue to work? And maybe their dream is something else. Like, would you say just pursue that other dream? Would you say start looking into these tools, or don't worry about it because it's not going to change that soon? Or what thoughts do you have on that?
Well, that's really difficult. I would say, okay. So in LA, I'm on a soccer team, and everybody that's on the soccer team, they work in film and TV. There's a lot of like crew guys there, and I will say that like there was so much more optimism when I started playing in like 2019. Like they were all getting pretty good work, and the thing with a lot of these jobs is. Like they're unionized and they're really good and they have collective bargaining power, and they've been able, a lot of these people have really been able to create like not fantastic, but like good middle class lives, and especially in like a very expensive city. I mean, they're not rich, but they work consistently, and yeah, I mean, for that's actually something that, I mean, I would say keeps me up at night is like crazy, because like this is just something we're working on now. Like, I mean, I don't even know if this is gonna work, but I find it really concerning. And I will say that like every single time that I go back to LA, like they're scared, and like more and more people are leaving the city and leaving the industry. And again, like that initially wasn't even because of AI. That was just because of streaming. And like I said, because that economic model is broken. And a lot of them have to like move to Las Vegas, Atlanta. There's a lot more shooting in Canada because of the tax credits in London and stuff like that. I don't think that there's like honestly, for those sorts of jobs, I don't know if there's like a one-to-one type thing. I actually really don't know, because there's so many people that are doing that. And sometimes I wonder, I'm like, maybe they came to LA because they wanted to make movies. I mean, you hear this a lot. It's like, you move to LA and you want to get into movies, and one of the easiest ways to do it is become a PA. So you work on set. You're doing kind of the BS on set. You're like getting coffee and these sorts of things. And some people just like kind of stay in that career track because maybe they just don't write the right thing, or they, there's only so many jobs at the creative level, so they kind of stay in that. So I don't know, maybe the trade-off is that like some of them can actually go back to being creative, but I feel really weird saying that, because again, like these are people with kids and stuff. So it's like, I know this is your hobby and like maybe you're gonna be able to figure out, but I also think that like younger people are gonna adapt to this much quicker. And like art takes time and time takes money. And so if you're, I don't know, like if you need the creative space to do that, it's oftentimes easier when you're younger, and it's different when you have kids and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't know. Like I think in many ways it sucks, but it's interesting. There's somebody else that I was listening to an interview, and somebody was talking about making a tool that's comparable to this, and they were like, I think that we shouldn't placate people and say that all these jobs will like be replaced, because like people aren't idiots, right? Like they know that this is not the case. So I think that maybe just being honest about it is kind of all you can do. I also think about the things, if you think about people, like, okay, if you work at a place like Pixar, that is, like, you are one of the most talented people in the world at what you do. Getting to that level is basically impossible. It's so difficult to do. And you have such an intense skill set, and you earn a lot of money because of that. And so I think just being like, okay, well, now you're gonna go do something else. Again, maybe the structure changes and they can work more creatively on other stuff, but I don't know, I'm just ranting on this now, but yeah, honestly, I don't know. I don't have the answer to that.
More questions? I have one. So I really, first of all, I really enjoyed the talk. But
Thank
also,
you.
I really found it interesting when you were talking about the democratization. You mentioned like having a relevant distribution channel, and something I'm feeling with like the creation of all this like AI slop that we're getting. I wonder if we have like quality distribution channels, you know, like a way to actually figure out, okay, from all this like slop, what is actually worth picking up. And
Yeah.
with what you're building, I wonder if like on top of the tool and being able to like create the visuals for the podcast, would it also be useful to have sort of like a, I don't want to say marketplace, but like a platform where people can also like share, oh, this is what I created, and kind of like have this smaller community where like good ideas can be found and then
Yeah.
spread?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think it's a great idea, and I was actually just thinking about this for the last couple of days. I think there's a good example for music because, you know, we have playlisting on Spotify. It's kind of interesting because Spotify initially was doing human curated playlists. And they were just like, hey, like you've got, I mean, what a job, by the way. Like you're getting paid 6 figures to like curate playlists for people. It's insane. But it's really cool. And a lot of those playlists were really good. I remember I'd find really good stuff there. And then they went to like more of an AI version where it was like automatically selecting. And I don't think that's been as successful as they thought it would be. And I mean, I think they're doing this now. I think they're actually moving more back to human curated channels. And I feel like with all of these things, with all these different music movements, there were always these like cool gatekeepers in whatever region or like wherever they are they just had really good taste, you know, like, and we trust these people. Again, like I think if you know, Ryan Schreiber is the guy that started Pitchfork, and he initially was just him, and he just has a really good ear. Like he just knew what people were generally going to like. And so he started, and also he's a good writer. So he started writing about it and scaling it, and people just like trusted it. So I would hope that, I don't know, if it's like YouTube, maybe you have like certain channels that people, in terms of discovery, that people discover stuff on. I would imagine you'd have, I mean, I would love for this to happen if there was like a film festival with people from all around the world putting this stuff together, and you'd have people curating that as well. I think one of the problems with podcasting right now is actually this, like there were a lot less coming out, you know, and now there's 700,000 active podcasts. Well, there's 3 million totally in the store, 3.5. And then this month there were 700,000 active podcasts. So like, that's a lot. I mean, how do you find or determine? I mean, that's why people are moving over to YouTube, because again, like it has an algorithm that can help you decide what you like. So I hope that that's what's going on there. I feel like also it's different because Sora and this stuff, you know, it's just, there's not even, I guess the curation is what you keep swiping on and how long you look at it, but it's really different than I think long form stuff. And I forget if I said this before, but I actually don't believe the narrative that younger generations are only interested in short form content. I mean, you hear from a lot of people that it's like they're actually moving away from this stuff because they're not idiots. Like they know that this stuff is bad for them. And I think the average watch time on YouTube right now is like 7 to 10 minutes, which is actually like pretty good. You know, if you're thinking about like, if you make a 10-minute short film, like that's pretty cool. Or you have like a TV show, you know? So yeah, I don't know, like I think that this will naturally develop. I don't know about making any sort of distribution channel. I don't know nothing about that. I wouldn't know how to do that. But I think it'd be amazing if somebody was doing that. But I think that people will just naturally come up and there'll be someone that you look to with good taste. We all have a friend with good taste, you know? We all have a friend that knows like what music to listen to, and you're like, hey man, I'm going through a breakup. What should I listen to? And they're like, oh, this.
Yeah, I love the talk.
Thanks, man.
Very interesting. I have a question on like, do you see like the long form video that gets created on the platform
Yes.
as like an input to how to make films in the future? Or do you see a future where like a step in the storyboarding process? Or do you see it like we'll go to Cinepolis and watch one of those in the movies?
Yeah, that's such an exciting and cool question. Well, it's interesting because today, what?
Repeat the question.
Oh, yeah. So do I just see these videos as something that's going to be like, and please correct me if I'm wrong in terms of your question, but like an input in the current filmmaking process? Like a tool that, like again, like VFX studios and stuff like this will use, or will we actually one day go to Cinepolis and watch one of these movies? I think both. Like, I don't think that, I think these large companies in LA, like I think they'll get reduced in size, of course, given everything that we've talked about. But I think there's still going to be an infrastructure there. And also, like, you know, if you think, I think that the way that people consume media right now is so based on age. Like, it wasn't like this before, right? Like, we would have general conversations about things that, like, everybody, like, you took your kid to see a movie and everybody's seen that. We all kind of see, you know, there was only so many shows on TV, right? It was like The Simpsons was on at 6:30. I don't know where you're from, but it was all like, we were all kind of watching the same stuff. But it's like you have young kids that are more on Roblox, and then you've got like short form stuff, and then you've got people that are into YouTube. And like my parents, for example, like, they don't want to mess with any of this stuff, right? Like they want to open up Amazon and find a movie with a guy that they know, or they want to, you know, go to the movies and see something there. And so I think that like there will still be places for that, and they'll still make that sort of stuff. But I mean, I'd say hell yes. I do think that there's going to be a world where in a few years, if these things get a lot better, you will have a kid making something, again, from any neighborhood here, and they'll hopefully be in a theater. I think so. Especially, you know, if they get a following and they view it as like, if the theater thinks that they're going to make money on it, then they'll do it, right? It's like, I think Chainsaw Man, it just came out, right? And like Hollywood's been just like blown away because like anime just keeps crushing it at the box office. And it's like, yeah, it makes sense. Like millions of kids love anime, right? They're going to go see it. So I think that question's amazing, and I think that it'll do both. That's what I think. Oh wait, I think his question was first.
You mentioned splitting up a script into scenes really
Yeah.
helped the output quality. Was there anything else that you discovered really helped the output?
Well, it was just putting it in like to, so a lot of these like AI video generators, they do them, I think it's like 5 to 10 seconds, like they have, and they really like for scenes, they would stick to that length of time. But we figured out that if we just set the time, like again, we were doing, I was like, I think 3 seconds really works, because you're just like constantly switching and it doesn't hallucinate as much. So for like the first video that I showed you, that one, it just improved dramatically when we did it specifically by time. Like each scene comes in, it's like, it's gonna be 3.5 seconds, or 3 seconds. And then, yeah, like setting up the scenes from there. That I think, I mean, right now off the top of my head, I would say in terms of the fluidity of the storytelling, that was initially the thing that we were like, oh wow, like that actually makes a pretty big difference here. But I mean, I hope there's, you know, it's actually, we were talking about this and we were like, because it still hallucinates sometimes, you know, like we were like, we need somebody that is so clever with words, because like it will, the prompting is really good and it gets better, like on creating the scenes and stuff like that, but it still makes mistakes. Like we had this, it was a video we were making about, I obviously like history, if you can tell. It was about the Lusitania. It's a ship that got shot by a torpedo, and the torpedo kept flying in the air, which torpedoes don't do. So it took us a long time to like reword it in a way that would make sense for it to go through the water and like correct what it was doing. We were like, how do we make this better? How do we make these prompts better so that this stuff doesn't happen? But yeah, that's all I have for now.
So the traditional model is a screenplay, and then a director makes that a movie.
Yeah, or they do both.
But it seems with AI, screenplays are almost irrelevant. That it would be much easier to make a movie from like a book or a narrative. It's almost like, is that the direction you see it going in, or is it because like, you know, there's a lot more to work with in a narrative in a book than there is in a dialogue. That's primarily what a screenplay is.
Totally, I think that's an amazing question. I mean, if I think about it, okay, if I think about the script, right, it's just like a form of writing that is more conducive for the screen. So sometimes, and it depends on the book and it depends on the script, but it's like a script for me is very actively like, okay, this is the scene. This is how it's supposed to look. And then here's the dialogue between these characters. And I've heard there's certain directors that want to, or writers, that people that write films, and they want to write books as well. And a lot of them do write books. And it's like kind of a different medium. And like, I just wonder, when I think about certain books, for example, I don't know, if you think about like Dostoevsky or something, like good stories, but I mean, it drags, it's just like some like long, grim descriptions of snow and these sorts of things. And I'm curious, like I actually don't know. I'm like, I wonder how that would come up in something like this. I'm actually not sure. I mean, so I don't know, because like to me, when we take like some of the podcasts and we turn them into stuff, it seems like it sort of turns it into a film script, right? Like it's kind of like structuring in a way again where it's like scene. You know, it's like when you shoot a movie, it's like you have the shot outside the building, so you know exactly where you are. Then you go inside, then the characters start talking, and it kind of starts to structure it like that. So I don't know. I mean, I guess it depends on what you'd want to make, but I think that's actually really cool because maybe the products in those two different forms of writing would be significantly different. So I don't know, but it's cool. It's a cool idea. Hi.
This is fascinating. I loved it, your talk. My question is about bias, and what's been your experience of, seeing bias in the images that have been generated? We've been trying to kind of prompt GPT in different programs recently, and there's been a bit of a suppression of that bias, but when we still prompt for like images and videos, we get a lot more of this kind of stereotypical, if you're like, oh, well, like, show me a picture of a women's rights, march in Mexico, and it's very like, it's only like indigenous Mexican
right.
women, whereas obviously Mexico's like got lots of different
right?
So just, really curious about what you've seen in that on the visual side, because on the text side, I've tried to like prod GPT, be like, like testing for some bias, and it's really not coming out with that anymore as much. But on the visual side, it's still like very much, whoa.
Yeah. I mean, of course. I mean, like, of course, when we're making this, like, you have moments where you're like, whoa. Actually, one of the first ones that we saw this on was there's a history podcast that we were trying to win their business, and I really like this episode about Cortez that they have, and so. Like Cortez arrives in Mexico, and then he comes here, and when it initially shows the Aztecs, it was like really off. Like none of the references made like any sort of sense, and we tried it a few different times, and it started to get better, but it was also mixing things like they'd have like Olmecs in there and Mayan stuff, and just like it just didn't look great. And so I mean, it looked good, but it was weird. And so for that one, that's why I think you need people working on this as well. I don't think it's like you automatically press a button and it does it. Like, I think especially if you're looking at things that are sensitive, like you're talking about a protest, you're talking about history, you need someone to look at this. Like in this specific circumstance with this guy, he has episodes about the Holocaust, right? So if we're like making these like animations about this, like you gotta be pretty careful with that. Like you can't, you know what I mean? Like you can't just have like cute characters coming in these situations. That's insane. And so, but definitely, I would say like, I don't even know how to properly articulate this, but like we would see like weird and insensitive things, and then we would have to personally prompt it to change. But it kind of, I don't know, and I don't know if it's like the type of things we've been trying to make. Like, we're working on stuff like anime, for example, and in that case, like we have a pretty clear idea of what we want it to look like. And so in that circumstance, it's easier, but with the historical stuff, it's weird. And I've also thought about a lot for like, if you used it, because somebody was asking me recently about like, okay, could you get to a point where it's doing it in real time? Then obviously for me, the use of that would be like for CNN or something. Like, I don't know, if they want to do their graphics or something like this, or they can't afford to have somebody go there. And I feel like if they're talking about a protest, it could get into really weird territory really fast. And so it's not perfect. I think you need a person still like double checking it.
My very quick follow-up question is what have you found has worked? Because I don't know what other people are using. The only thing I've found that worked is saying, we want a picture of like mixed people with disabilities, and just kind of spelling it out in the prompt and just being like very specific about what difference actually means.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing that we found. Like, I'm just curious about what you've seen.
Again, what we've seen as well is similar to what you're saying. So like it'll put out some generic output, and you're like, oh, and then like you have to personally write it out. That's the only thing that I've found, and maybe it get to a point where like, I don't know, like ChatGPT is better, or like our prompting gets better. My hope would be that like our prompting gets so specific in this sort of stuff that it's naturally just better and gives you what you want. But then you also get into dicey territory because then you just have like you describing everybody, and I don't know. But yeah, it seems like right now, again, I think you have to have a human that comes in and explicitly describes it when it does that. That's what I think. Yep.
I guess I'm asking this as a podcaster that's been worried for the last couple of years that I think we all need to move to video now.
Yeah.
I've been doing narrative podcasts for a while, and thinking about the transition, especially because everybody's moving to YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what am I supposed to like put in there? And I guess this kind of solves that problem. You can make animations around it, but then it's not podcast anymore. It's like film, like narration, images. It's like, do you think narrative podcasts are going to disappear? Or like,
I don't think narrative podcasts are going to disappear, and one of the reasons that I made this, or that we're making this, like, okay, so I got into podcasting because I like narrative podcasts. Like, I like talk shows, of course, but I loved the idea that anybody could make like a really compelling story and get your friend to come in and, okay, you're this voice and I'm this voice. Like, that's so awesome to me. Like, so many of my favorite shows, like this show, I loved it. It was in 2000, it was called Gay Future. And it was like this whole world that they built, and it was really beautifully sound designed. And yeah, they could have only done that in this medium. I think they are still a podcast because I think, okay, to me, a podcast is something that you can listen to and you don't need anything else on top of it. So I feel that if you're writing this thing in a manner in which your listener can choose the visuals or not, then cool. But I don't know if like it increases the views of your podcast by 2 to 3 times to put it on YouTube and it makes the discovery better, then I guess like, what's the harm? If you have a tool that can make it easily, cool. I think where it sucks is that a lot of these podcasts now, they're like TV shows. I mean, and it's cool, by the way, Diary of the CEO, I mean, that's got some great episodes, but I don't know if you've ever seen the behind the scenes in that. I mean, the production is like really expensive, and there's like a lot of people working on that, and that's prohibitive for most people to do. So yeah, I also think that like, okay, if you think about like a movie, for example, is traditionally the bottom line is like 90 minutes, right? Like a 120-page script. And a lot of that length of a movie just comes from the fact that it's like they wanted to turn the theaters over 4 times in one night, They needed something larger to market. So to me, podcasting could also just be like another medium of storytelling with different times, and the timing could serve the piece more. And so to me, as long as people can listen to it, and I don't know, I'm not like the podcast police. I'm not just like, that's not a podcast. But I think, like if you can listen to it in your car or when you're working out, to me, it's a podcast. And I don't know, if you want to attach visuals to it, then I say you should do it. If you don't, then you don't have to. But by the way, there's still tons of people that just listen to audio-only podcasts, me included. I mean, I can't like jog or something without listening to one. So I don't know. That's my thought on that.
Yeah, first of all, great talk.
Thanks, buddy.
Very interesting content. It's a very promising product. So.
Oh, thanks, buddy. Thank you.
My own take on this is that whatever media we generate, humanity will want more, and we have an infinite amount of TV channels and I don't know how many streaming services and YouTube, and we just don't get enough.
Totally.
So, I think the market will widen.
Yeah.
And people will find more uses for your tool, like drafting movies or actors experimenting with production.
Yeah.
Or, producers experimenting with scripts. What about teaching? What about if I want to create a class?
Yeah.
Describe the cardiovascular system and how it works. Would that work for that?
Yeah, of course. That's actually in our pitch. That's like one of the main things that we talk about. We talk about like creators, a variety of businesses, of course, Coca-Cola making their AI ads, but education is like one of the big things, which I think in terms of like personalization for education, making dry material more engaging. I don't know, like I think it'd be really cool. Like if you had a teacher that was like, okay, I'm teaching you about the cardiovascular system today. Like, they could make their own little movie about it for the kids to watch at night. And maybe that would be a lot more engaging than reading their textbook, you know, and they get the same information. I mean, I hope that people would do something like that. Or I hope a kid in the class would make it, you know. So, yeah, I mean, I think that would be amazing. But thank you.
Do you want to do one more last question? Anybody have anything?
Hi. Just from the limitations on the model understanding of the world.
Yeah.
On the video creation, I'm just thinking about like this video of the bunnies jumping on the trampoline, and that was something everyone wanted to see and was like, oh, like this is so whimsical, and
yeah, that was crazy.
Kind of like disappointed that that was AI.
Yeah.
And on the other side, we have this brain rot video creation and kind of like clogging the internet.
Yes.
But all of that, it's based on like a model understanding of the world.
Yes.
So I'm thinking of ways I could like innovate and create something new, like kind of like something the dolly zoom on movies. It was something not seen before.
Yes.
But I don't know if that's possible with AI because it's limited to the model capabilities.
Yeah. Wait. So, I don't understand the question.
It's, I think,
Is it possible to innovate? I think maybe is my question.
thank you. Yes.
I mean, yeah. I think. By the way, sorry, I didn't mean to be like harsh. Well, I think. Well, so the thing is like, you know, we're not like. With at least what we're doing, you know, we're using what is readily available, right? Like, this is a workflow that is using like Veo, Sora, Kling, whatever have you, and then putting it into a structure and then outputting stories. I view it as like, you've got this thing here, we're here, and then we're there, you know, like in a filmmaking process. So I sometimes feel like we're at the mercy of the generation models that we're using, you know? But it seems as though a lot of it is just the limit is how good you are at prompting, I think. I mean, I don't know like in terms of what other ways you would, I mean, obviously there's a million ways you would innovate, but yeah, for me, I just feel like, I feel like I've been like stunned by prompting and like how, like just thinking about things in just like a slightly different way, you just get a completely different output. And I think it's just like really interesting. So yeah, I don't know, like maybe that. But again, I feel like I'm at the mercy of what we're using here because like we don't have, I mean, Ben and I talked about this, we had coffee, like, I mean, we don't have the money and, you know, or time to make our own version of like Sora or something. This is just a tool to help use it. So yeah, I guess we're at the mercy of ChatGPT. We're at the mercy of Sam Altman. It's true, we all are.
Careful, he's listening.
He's here! It's like, ah. Okay.
Awesome.
All right, thank you.
One more round of applause. Thanks so much, everybody, for coming out tonight, and definitely check us out. We're going to host we've had these 30-some months in a row, so we're still going to be here next year, so look forward to those next events. We've got some big events planned, but I think the plan is to head over pretty much now-ish over to Yakimonica and have some food and drinks and what you might want there, and yeah, and Danny is still planning, you're still planning to go over there,
Yeah.
so we'll have more time for conversation, questions, and discussions, and so on and so forth. And welcome to all the new members of the WhatsApp community. We have a bunch of different channel groups in there. We try and keep them more and more segmented, one for just event talk and posting events, sharing events, and then we also have two main like AI discussion channels, one for just in Spanish and one that's both in Spanish and English. So feel free to join those, and if you have any questions of like, how should I be doing this, or I'm trying to approach this in AI, please post it there. In my experience, everybody's very happy to send you the resources and what they've found, what they've discovered, because you know, we're all going through a lot of the same problems, except for maybe Dave. He's beyond us here, but all right, guys, and yeah, so I'll see you over here. Okay. Great job, man.
Yeah, thank you so much. Oh yeah, thank you. What's in your podcast?
I have many. I use Spotify to 30.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Is it 30 for 30?
Yeah, but just like a single.
What was that episode about?
It was about the Santo.
Del Santo?
Yeah, he cleared me.